Hello and welcome back. We're talking to this guy that Ed says has cancer.
Oh, you asshole. I told him that I was a kid. I used to think he was aged a really big kid who was bald like Caillou. And, I thought he might have cancer or something like that, so I thought it might be a cancer patient kid.
Well,
This was me as a kid, and I felt bad for him. Like, aw. Like, he doesn't have any hair, he's sick?
Well.
But, that to me talking... Did you actually believe No Man's Sky would have all the features everyone thought it would?
I was iffy. Like, I was part of the skeptical side where I was like, well, I would love it if it has this, but I wasn't falling too much into the overhyping that everyone else was doing.
So I don't get to belittle you as much as I thought I would. No, it's like, I remember hearing all the features, I'm like, guys, relax, like, I know one of our buddies, Jake, he was pretty hyped for it, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing some of the features that him talking about, I'm like, you know how impossible that sounds, right?
Exactly. Like, what I was expecting at the very least was actual multiplayer, like you would actually find other players, and some sort of, like, base building or, like, story progression. Which, technically, you can find other players, but it's only in instances where it's like, oh yeah, in this instance, these two players would be together based on where they are online, but in each other's games, they can't tell at all. Like, you'll never find someone. I mean, they've introduced base building now, but it just seems like too late to be including these features.
And I wasn't hyped for No Man's Sky, I don't know why, it just didn't catch my interest.
Yeah.
Like, I remember people freaking out about it, like I said with Jake and all that, and then talking about all the features, and my only thought was, that doesn't sound reasonable,
Yeah.
How long have they been working on this game? No, that does not sound possible. And I remember actually being told to shut up at one point, because, this game is going to be the greatest game ever.
No.
And, like, I have a buddy, who, he effing loves the Witcher series, he's been reading the books since, he first found them in translated from Polish online,
Yeah.
And I remember how hyped he was for Witcher 3. And even he wasn't that hyped, for The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And The Witcher 3 fucking delivered on the amount of hype and then some.
Yeah, well, it's one of the greatest games of all time. No questions asked.
God, that game, I fucking love it so much.
But if we're going to be honest here, like, I'm going to be serious here, I don't think any game is going to ever dethrone Sonic 06 as the best.
I'm sorry, but have you played Sonic Boom?
Actually, no. I've actually heard mixed reviews on Sonic Boom. Like, it's actually not as bad as some say.
Well,
but it's not the best. Like,
one of the issues is, and a lot of people make fun of quality control, but it's kind of like the case of the ending of Mass Effect, where the head of corporation, said, hey, this game that you already weren't planning to have the game out for a long time.
Yeah.
It's coming out next month.
It's like, oh, great.
So, fuck you. Your beta testers and all that may have said, there's this issue, there's a glitch that can cause you to jump infinitely with Knuckles, but, and I guess in the case of, well, that's not important, but, just shafting, the corporation, with like Mass Effect, it's like, oh, the ending's not done, we have to work on it more, and basically that kind of shit, is what happened to Sonic Boom, is, people worked really hard in the game, and, arguably, there was some aspects there that, could have been good, but they got shafted, so, and it wasn't even to the point with Mass Effect, where Mass Effect, oh, we have 99% of the game done, we just gotta work on the ending,
Yeah.
It's out the door. They had 50% of the game done.
Yeah.
They had like a beta build of the game done, and they're like, this will be a fun game when we finish, with the, the final version of it. Oh no, this is the final version of it, you're selling it tomorrow. What? Well, it's not done, we're missing frames of animation in the fucking opening, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So, that's where I can make fun of Sega, and the corporate behind it, but I can't make fun of the developers, who actually worked on the game.
Yeah.
Because, I know that's bullshit they had to deal with.
Yeah, like, that's the big thing. Like, a lot of people blame developers for things, but the developers do have their own schedule that is placed on the producers and all that.
And like, sometimes it is the developer's fault completely, but that was one of those cases where, no matter how hard you worked, and all that, you were shafted by, someone who wanted to make a Christmas deadline
Exactly.
for a game that honestly probably needed till next Christmas.
Yeah.
But they were impatient.
Shit. Oh, Low Kick. Oh yeah, Low Kick has a small chance of missing as well. Yeah, that's kind of why I really enjoy the indie games, because first off, they stop missing. I wasn't even sand attacked.
Have you seen Mighty Number 9?
I heard that one was kind of like a similar boat where it was underwhelming based on what it was going for. I personally never played it though, so I have no say.
I personally haven't played it, but I've seen like all of it because I was really debating getting it.
Yeah.
But I heard such mixed reviews, and I think it could have been a great game, but I think and this was the fault very much of the developers because the people making the schedule for it were the developers.
Yeah.
And I see potential. I see character designs that are appealing. I see base ideas that seem fun, but just no.
Yeah.
I find that the game, has so many issues and so much fuck-ups, and it's like, it had so much potential, but no.
Yeah.
And that really was it Anophanes, I think it was, who was behind that one?
I personally don't know.
Okay, well, I probably shouldn't actually say names then, but whoever it was, who was responsible for that one, they fucked it up,
Yeah.
They talked about making a sequel, and, if a sequel does get made, I hope, they deliver a game that makes it up to people.
Exactly, yeah.
I hope, they, it's like, and it was a case where it wasn't even, a newbie developer, making the mistakes. It was a veteran of developing who made the mistake. So, I guess there's pros and cons to Kickstarter. You get, you get Mighty Number 9s, but you also get, games like Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, I heard that one's pretty good. At the same time, I have heard a couple of concerns there, because they said, it's a great game as its own, but, like, I guess a lot of fans as well were putting so much pressure on saying, oh yeah, no, it's got to be as good as Banjo-Kazooie. And when you're holding a game up like that, I feel like that's when you're doing the most harm.
I feel like when was the last time you played Banjo-Kazooie, guys? Because, like, Banjo-Kazooie was amazing for the time.
Yeah. Like, the way I see it, like, if you try to say, okay, well, every developer should always strive to have their next installment of a series or a spiritual successor of a series to be just as good, if not better, than the original. However, you shouldn't really hold it to them on that. Like, it's such a difficult market as well.
It's an argument. There's an argument you can make that it was better. The thing is, people hold the old game in such high regards, because rather than looking at it as what it is, as a whole, they're simply only looking at it as how revolutionary it was for the time.
Mm-hmm.
And just because the new game doesn't have a bunch of huge revolutions to how a game plays and all that, doesn't make it worse. In fact, it can be better.
Exactly. Now, this is not meant to offend anyone at all. Like, I think the Banjo series is fantastic. At least, I enjoyed playing the first one. I didn't play as much, but I did see my cousin played a lot, and I thought it was great. And I still think it's an awesome game. But I do feel like nostalgia does factor in. So I'm going to be honest. I love Yellow. I think Yellow is great. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest.
It has issues.
Gen 2 was significantly better. And I can actually... Like, I personally kind of back this when I say, like, Gen 3 was my personal favorite. However, I think the best games were Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Black and White 2. Even though I liked Gen 3 the most, I can honestly say those were probably the best ones. And that is, like, a big thing. Like, nostalgia does play a big factor into
the thing is, people,
things like this.
When you're reviewing a game by itself, you gotta remember, what it was at the time. Cause I find a lot of people make the mistake, and it's like, oh, this game's crap. It's like, well, think of the time,
Exactly.
You're comparing, a game for, the
There we go.
N64 by PlayStation 4 standards,
Yeah.
But then it's like when you're comparing two games apart from two games together, you gotta remember, the difference in time, because people get caught up in, how revolutionary it was in the time, that they forget, all the issues.
Yeah. I feel like a good way to review something is like, okay, let's take the Crash Bandicoot remaster, the Insane Trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, draw your comparisons to the original game, because that's what is an homage to it, is a recreation of the original games, but also factor in the way it is today. How does it hold up? How does it feel? Because, some have said, oh yeah, no, it's perfect. Personally, I don't think any game is perfect. Every game has their flaws, regardless of the sphere. They could be minor flaws, it could be big flaws.
If we want to roll back to, for example, with the Witcher series.
Yeah.
I think it is an amazing game. It is in my top 5 games list, The Witcher 3. But I can think of a few glitches in the game.
Yeah.
I can think of a glitch where I was fighting a werewolf and he phased through the ground and I couldn't complete the quest.
Exactly, yeah.
In fairness to the developers, that was a DLC quest that had just come out, and that was one of 2 glitches that I had seen in the entire giant game.
Yeah.
And that game is big. And, so good on them that that's the only 2 glitches I found,
Exactly, yeah.
As the other one is, I had drowners and guards for 2 quests run into each other while I wasn't there, and they killed each other.
Yeah.
And because of that, I couldn't complete the quest.
Holy. That's funny.
But it was a very minor, like it wasn't even a quest, it was just a side mission kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's a glitch, that is an issue, but it's very minor.
Yeah.
I still call the game a masterpiece, but it has, some minor problems.
Exactly. I love Fallout and Elder Scrolls. Okay, those are probably some of my favorite RPG games.
But, people, sorry to jump in.
Oh, shit.
But Skyrim, how much do people, like to talk about how great Skyrim is and how perfect and flawless it is?
Right.
But they forget, how glitchy was Skyrim when it came out?
Exactly.
I had a dragon attack a village, or a dragon attack near a village, and the village guards did nothing. Then, the fight moved into the village.
Yeah.
I went to shoot fire at the dragon. I'm shooting fire at the dragon, and a guard rushes in, runs right through the stream of fire air that was already there.
Yeah.
And then their priority switches from the dragon to me while
Exactly.
the dragon's still alive. And I kill the dragon, and I get arrested. And I lose all the loot and the soul.
Yeah. I know that Skyrim PS3 was really buggy, so...
Yeah, that's what I was playing on that time.
But, I know that there's bugs in Bethesda games. They're kind of notorious for that.
Yeah.
I still think they're great games. It really depends. If the bug is game-breaking, that's different.
I effing love Fallout. I've played it multiple times. And, I eventually did go back to Skyrim, though. I played on the computer the next time.
Yeah.
And, God, I gotta say, that was real fun,
Yeah.
I think Bethesda games, though, if you can't deal with glitches, wait a year.
Exactly, yeah. But, everyone sees them differently. Something like, oh yeah, there's a glitch in this, clearly it's bad, I'm not going to play it. You're going to find a glitch in every game, guaranteed.
Or another one, hands down, I have said my favorite game of all times is Tales of Grace's F, right?
Yeah.
That is my number 1 game. And that one, there's backtracking in it, backtracking ain't fun.
Yeah.
And there's some grinding, because it's a JRPG. And, those are flaws. But, I'm aware that, my favorite game of all time has flaws,
Mm-hmm.
And I find that some people, when they're reviewing or comparing to games that are their favorites, they forget, that even your favorite game has flaws.
Yeah. Also, when comparing to your favorites, I feel like you got to make sure that you keep the genre in mind. I can't compare Elder Scrolls 5 to Farming Simulator 17. Because if someone says, oh yeah, no, Skyrim's more buggy than this, therefore it's worse, you really can't compare 2 different genres like that.
Well, that's like comparing, let's say, I'm trying to think of a simple, let's say, Call of Duty shooter.
COD to Battlefield. That's the biggest one I see.
I'm gonna say COD to Skyrim. You know,
Okay.
there's a lot more area and interactable mechanics in Skyrim. You know, like when it comes to COD, you know, there's only so many guns with so many customizations in the story mode. I'm talking story completely with this one.
Yeah.
And there's limited maps in COD. When Skyrim, there's so much map space, there's so many textures, there's so many. You gotta realize the scope of a game too.
And it's factoring in what's going on in other locations. Like if there's a cave at the other end of the map, it's factoring in what's going on in there. Like if there's enemies there that are actually hostile to each other, it will be factoring in those two fighting, while you're sitting there drunk at one of the cities trying to find out where the hell all your shit went.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, like don't take this as a knock against COD, you know, because
I enjoy it.
I've enjoyed some COD games. You know,
Yeah.
they're not my favorite. Though my favorite, what's your favorite COD game?
I think my favorite, which a lot can agree with, is Modern Warfare 2. I think that was the pinnacle of the online, at least.
With me, I've always been more of a story guy, and my favorite for story, World at War.
Oh, yeah.
That end scene with Rezanov, oh my god. That, you know, that was just so beautiful.
I think my favorite campaign was actually Call of Duty 3. Because you got to play as the Americans, you got to play as the Canadians, you got to play as the Brits.
Yeah.
It was so cool. Yeah.
No, but it's like, it's like people forget, you know, that even the best game have glitches, and they forget that even if you idolize a game when you're comparing, you know, you gotta remember that the game you idolize has glitches.
Yeah, exactly.
And issues, you know. And flawless and perfect are relative.
Yeah.
You know, what would be flawless on the NES would not be considered a flawless game.
Exactly.
By PlayStation 4 standards or Xbox One or the Switch standards, you know.
Exactly. Like the way I see it, a flawless game, and I hate to bring this into it, but I think it has to be said, has to have like the most advanced, high-end, realistic graphics, the most realistic like physics and engine. Absolutely no bugs. A very strong, like if it's story based, like a very strong story that makes you really feel for the characters. Like it makes you really relate.
And I would actually argue with you, and I would say that a perfect game is always relative.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
What it's relative to, it can be a few different things. The times, the beholder, the hardware, the genre.
Yeah, exactly.
The audience. You know, what could be considered a flawless, you know, to let's say the Japanese, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, it's so good, you know, incorporate this, you know, from our culture and this.
Yeah.
You know, and the references, you know, great, the comedy, you know, that, you know, might not hold relative to, let's say, an American audience member, you know. I know there are jokes and puzzles that, you know, were translated very well that don't make sense to if you don't know the background of the culture.
Exactly.
And in that case, you know, for one audience, so it's always relative to something. And, you know, it's relative to the beholder, the times, and to a bunch of things. There's so many variables to what it's relative to.
Exactly. Like, I have a personal bias towards RPG games. I think that's the best genre. But that's my own opinion.
Oh,
you know, everyone can have their own.
For RPGs, especially JRPGs.
Like, being honest again as well, the first-person shooter genre kind of has a stranglehold on at least PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's kind of like the main focus.
I find PlayStation, though, also has a lot of RPGs.
Oh, yeah. PlayStation has a lot more. But it just seems like whenever you see trailers for the consoles, you pretty much always see at least 2 to 3 shooters, maybe 1 racing, 1 sport, and 1 RPG. That's usually the most of what I see.
And because, you know, I am such an RPG fan, and you know, I, you know, typically of the 3, I'm more of a PlayStation person, you know, for current generation. I see all the JRPGs because, you know, Sony, Japan, you know, and all that.
Yeah. They got a little thing going on.
Yep. Where it's like, you know, Xbox, you know, doesn't have that. Well, it could be argued that they do. So it's like, you know, I lean towards, you know, Nintendo and Sony because of that. And because I've never been much of a shooter, except for freaking Fallout, you know, I freaking loved. Actually, I've loved a few shooters, but, you know, it's not my favorite genre.
Yeah.
I think we should end it around here. Hey?
Yeah, I think this is a good point.
We kind of got way into video game theory.
Yeah. Well, Brock was defeated. Our team is pretty well-rounded so far. Mayor, Beck, and Auntie both have fighting-type moves now, which is nice. Monty's rocking that Thunder Wave to help with captures. And Juice is just kind of here.
Hi, Juice.
Yeah. I mean, Juice isn't going to be a strong Pidgeot, but he'll be okay for now.
He'll always be a Pidgey.
Yeah. It's kind of nice, though, because with Pikachu here, I don't have to worry about having to press B every time.
Yep.
Kind of like an Arcanine because of that. Or Growlithe, sorry, but whatever.
Okay. Well,
we'll call it here.
Thank you for joining us, the one person on our audience.
Yeah. As well, actually, about our little rant there about games and perfection, feel free to leave a couple comments there. What do you think makes a perfect game? And what your favorite is? We'd love to see what y'all think. And, yeah, we'll most likely end up responding to all you with our own little comments.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about having a small channel.
Yeah.
Like, really small is. Because you only get 1 or 2 comments, you can answer back.
Exactly. Anyways, again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.